Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, cats and chicks, dudes and deucessies. It's Sunday night. It's 8 o'clock. We've all done a whole lot of shoveling. Welcome to All Lacrosse Live. I'm Gary Groob in snowy Toronto. With me, as always, is Shawn Slaght over in Moose Jaw. Shawn, how's the snow situation out there?
Surprisingly not snowy, but very, very, very cold.
I feel like I'm part of Environment Canada here. And over down south, we go to Muffler Mike. Mike, how's the snow situation over there?
It's cold and it's piling up.
So we have this North American blast. If you're with us, it's one of two things: you really love lacrosse, or you're just snowed in and need something to do. But we appreciate you being with us, anyways. So welcome. And we got a number of things to cover this week. But before we get rolling, as always, let me just get the major stuff out of the way. Remember that all of our shows are streamed live across Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, also on EOP. Wow, I went backwards, didn't I? Streampunkentertainment.com. Remember to hit the subscribe, follow, and like buttons. Always share with your friends, family, and anybody else. Please enjoy all the affiliates across our network, like Fly Like an Eagle, Keep It in the Ring, Streampunk Cinema, Streampunk Combat, as well as All Lacrosse All the Time, and NLL Lacrosse Talk, as well as CFL shows down the road, and some soccer and football shows. Missed a show, no worries. You can grab all the shows on YouTube at Streampunk Sports, Streampunk Cinema, Streampunk Combat, or of course, All Across All the Time, in which you will find virtual games, interviews, library of shows, all kinds of great things. Remember, you can stay up to date with all sports by visiting streampunkentertainment.com with the great articles from our huge staff of contributors. Also, remember that the show is brought to you by 60. 60 is Canada's most exciting sports uniform and teamwear brand, delivering top quality uniforms and teamwear that reflects the spirit and identity of each team. Their commitment to innovation and excellence sets them apart, ensuring that every customer experiences the perfect blend of style and functionality. Unleash your greatness with 60. Add Lax Talk 10 for a 10% discount on any and all of your orders. How do you get there? Well, first off, you can use the QR code in the center of your screen, or you can go to Instagram at sweet_60. You can go and email them at info.sweet60@gmail.com, or go directly to their website at www.sweet60.ca/60. Jim and his group will be more than happy to work with you on any and all styles, any and all apparel. And things that are in the works for us are great looking tees. So stay tuned. That will be really soon. Alrighty, guys. Few things this week. Number one, and near and dear to my heart, and something I've been rallying across for, since they moved back to the TD Coliseum, is the banners are back. That look beautiful. All those banners. But instead of going across the floor, now they're hanging underneath the press boxes. No wonder I couldn't see them. I had to look down. All right, a few things to take care of. Number one, Pan Am Sixes will be in Oshawa next fall, September 29th to October the 4th. You're going to want to catch all the information on that one as it gets nearer to everything. But that's exciting. That's going to be a lot of fun, too. Few milestones. Kristen Delbianco is at 100 career assists and a couple of just beauties on Friday. Wow. Mark Matthews yesterday hit the 700 career assist mark. Jesse King with 200 career goals.
And he's 1 point shy of 600 for his career as well.
Pretty cool. We had a couple of trades. We had, Stephen Keogh is now signed to Halifax, which would make sense since they just got rid of Dawson Theed, who is now in Oshawa for a 2028 first-round pick. Also, Toronto picked up Stephen Orleman from Buffalo for a third-round 2026 pick. And in Philadelphia, we didn't forget about you folks. You have some good news too. And that is finally Flash is back. Scott Dominey was back on Friday night and making an impact. Pardon the pun. But yeah, Flash is back, which is great news for the Philadelphia faithful. One other piece of news, and that is in the PLL, is that Brett Dobson has been re-signed by the Archers through 2029. And the way he played yesterday, wow, doesn't matter field or box, is, in my opinion, probably the best in the world now. But, well, he is the reason why Georgia won yesterday. Hands down. That could have gotten ugly fast. And you remember I'd mentioned last week that we got 2 feet. Well, add another 2 feet. We got a lot of snow. I'm happy to be indoors. It's almost time to have like a Canadian Field Championship now, right? Almost the same amount of snow. If only, eh? God. Been a weird winter, eh? I haven't seen one of these in a lot of years, man. Since I was a kid, I remember seeing winters like this. But we've had one of those winters where, you know, in years past, either it's been bitterly cold, or there's been lots of snow and it's been not so cold. This one we got the best of both worlds, man. It was minus 35 Celsius Saturday morning with the wind chill. That's cold, man.
That's what is out here right now.
That's Saskatchewan cold, man. That's not Toronto cold. Toronto's like minus 10, and we're like, I'm not coming out. Minus 35. That's when your car goes, please, please.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then, of course, this snow drive, it's been many, many years since I've seen this much snow in one dropping. And being that we've had 2 of these storms in the span of a week and a half, this city doesn't have any contingency plan for that. We're just kind of going on the seat of our pants. Don't park anywhere because the plows will come. And even though you're parked, you may be gone. You may think you were towed, but it's just strong plows. Just 9 cars going down the road. Eduardo's with us.
Hey, Eduardo.
Hey, Eduardo, thank you from sunny St. Augustine.
Yeah, that's nice.
I'm going to bet you that I have more snow than you do. Even with the Mexican cartels just down the road, I have more snow than you do. It's been wild. But, hey, you know, we're all around to see it and have fun with it. And, you know, if you don't have to go anywhere, you know, you can be a kid again, man, making snow angels and, you know, snowball fights and things like that. Stuff those people down south would never know. Anyways, gentlemen, how was your week? Shawn?
Hey, pretty good on my end. Especially if we get to the pick'ems.
Yeah.
Yeah, get those stats up there.
Yeah,
right now.
Unfortunately, I don't have them.
He doesn't have them all. How convenient he doesn't have them.
Unfortunately, they're not in my fingertips handy. I will say that Shawn went 4-0 this week. Mike went 3-1, as well as Pat went 3-1, and Cade and I were, sitting there as the bottom of the cage at 2-2 each. On the season, it is now Pat and Shawn on top at 28-18. That is a 609 average for those of you keeping score at home. I am holding on barely in third place at 26-20, rapidly going past Mike on the way down as he's going on the way up at a 565 average. Mike is actually doing great. He's at 24-22 at a 522 clip, and Caden is at 500 at 23-23. Yeah, I look good, man. I look really good until Saturday. I don't know. You know, yesterday's game in Toronto was a hell of a game, and I thought I had that one in the bank. You know, up 8-5, and Lyle Thompson decided he was going to arrive and play. I saw his shoes earlier in the game, but they were actually doing something in the fourth quarter. And when he decides he wants to take over a game, he darn well takes over a game. And my new seats are behind the net. So when I see the shots, and he's got the most deceptive shot in the league, I think, because it certainly doesn't look like he's shooting, and then it comes about 122 miles an hour. And sometimes catches the corner, sometimes doesn't. But they certainly come quick. And, well, it's interesting to see it in perspective of the goalies. Brian, coming from snowy New
Thanks for
Jersey.
tuning in.
Hey, if Pat drives by, you say hi to him for us, would you? I know Pat is doing his daily job of keeping the roads safe and clean. So I got a feeling we might see him by March. The way things are going right now. It's wild everywhere. This is the first time I've seen it where the entire map, south to north, is just all about snow. Even Texas, for Christ's sake. That must go over well. Nobody could get to a Panther sit. Wait a minute. Sorry.
Oh,
I digress. I digress. But the seats always look like there was snow on them.
yeah.
Yes, oh yes. But it's been fun. But yeah, just watching Lyle take over, and in overtime it took all of 30 seconds for him to convert a Shane Jackson pass. On the bright side, though, Owen Hiltz had another spectacular game. This guy is just unbelievable. He's a miniature tank. And him and CJ Kirst working together, Mark Matthews added into that little mix. And this is going to be a really interesting offense. And the thing that really got me, actually, and had me noticing things, was their defense. Their defense was suffocating for 3 quarters, or the better part of 3 quarters. The last 20 minutes, not as much, but that was just adjustments made by Georgia, in my eyes. And just interesting to watch all this. And Holochuk in net really looked good. He was on the show on Thursday, and such a nice guy. And we had such a great talk, and we had a more of a chat after the game yesterday. And it was such a pleasure and refreshing to hear someone who is just so thankful to be there. Doesn't matter in a backup role, doesn't matter in a starter's role, but just to be mentally prepared on any and all aspects. That show is on YouTube at All Lacrosse All the Time. If you're interested in watching it, it is it's also up on Spotify. If you're interested in listening, it is a good interview, and we go through everything from his days in St. Catharines on outward. So really, really a great listen and a great watch, if depending on which device you want to use. So. All right, we go into some ALL action, and well, of course, the weather has taken over, and our 4-game schedule has become a 2-game schedule because all games today at ILA over in Six Nations was canceled because even if you had the best intentions, I don't think you could have gotten there. Which one, Brian? Would it be the Rock one that signed on the back? Or would it be the Gavin Prout one here? I had a chance yesterday and had all the guys sign my retro rock with the CN Tower. Playing on the numbers there, but it was a lot of fun. It's great to see everybody just in a regular aspect and not, in game mode, right? So, right, kind of figured. But hey, Shawn will be back with us, I'm sure. It's nice it's not mine for a change.
There you go. Yeah, I don't know what was going on there.
You've obviously switched over to Rogers.
Yeah, apparently.
I keep my thing right beside me so that I have it just there so I can scream at it when it freezes on me. But anyways, getting into the ALL games, we had 2 AL games on the slate. And our first game from Oshawa was Saturday, and that is the Whitby Steelhawks and the Oshawa Outlaws got together, and Whitby continues to be hot. They win 15-10. Owen Arpana had 4 goals to assist for Whitby. Ethan Harwood looked great in net for the Steelhawks. 10 goals against, but he was just a rock. On the other side, Jackson Brown once again had another really good game for Oshawa, but unfortunately, was on the losing end, but he only gave up 15 in net and was pelted. He had a lot of rubber. It's funny because Oshawa got off to a decent start. They were up 2-1 late in the first. It was tied 2-2. And in fact, with 1 second left, Ryan Hayes scored for Oshawa. And it was 3-2 Oshawa after one. They made it 4-2 and then 5-2 and then 6-2 early into the second. Then the roof fell in. Whitby took over, and a 4-goal run changed everything. It brought it back to a tie into the third quarter. We go into the third, and Oshawa gets one and takes the lead again. However, Whitby puts together another 4-goal run. And then this thing is moving its way south. And again, Whitby just takes over from that point. Looking at it, again, we talked about owner Pana, but again, with the Pfeiffer brothers, Parker Pfeiffer had a goal and 6 assists in this game. Devin Piper had 2 goals and 5 assists in this game. Liam Osborne had another big game with 3 goals and 4 assists as well. Nate Woods in transition, a goal and 2 assists. Curtis Conley had a goal and an assist. Nick Ferris, Eric Andrew, and Ben Cromer added goals for Whitby. For Oshawa, John St. John was the facilitator with 5 assists on the day. Laser Luke Laskowitz with 2 goals and 3 assists. Zach Terry, 2 goals, 2 assists. Ryan Hay with a pair of goals in transition. Jake Gilmore, goal. Cole Hanrahan, great move getting him in there, had a goal on the night. And Nick Webb and Ben McDonnell also had a goal each in the loss. We go to the late game, and the Toronto Monarchs and the Peterborough Timbermen met. And, well, Toronto is hot also. They won 20-13 in this game. Cody Innes with 4 goals and 5 assists led the way. Riley Ford with 3 goals and 6 assists also for Toronto. For Peterborough, Jeff McNulty led the way with 4 goals, 4 assists. Now, interestingly enough, Aaron Woods was in the lineup, but really didn't have that much of an impact in this game, as he had 2 goals on the night, no assists in this one. But it was another one of those games where Peterborough and Toronto are going back and forth. Toronto puts together a run midway through the first and really doesn't look back. They put together another fairly decent run in the second, and they run away with it in the third. 8 goals in the third, which changes everything around. 20-13 for Toronto. And the games today, of course, were canceled. The power rankings, there was a bit of movement, but not a lot because of games not being played. Brampton stayed in first. They're still sitting with a 5-1 record. The Toronto Monarchs have moved their way into second right now with a 4-3 record. And Peterborough, with a 4-3 record, moved down 1 spot into third. Whitby is sitting comfortably in fourth at 4-3 as well. Oswego didn't play. They're sitting in fifth. Paris didn't play in sixth. Six Nations moved up a spot only because Oshawa lost and moved down a spot into eighth. So that will all work itself out in the next couple of weeks. The games that were not played today will be rescheduled later on in the season, and they will be made up. So do not fear. Alrighty, that brings us over to NLL action. And we start on Friday night. And of course, why don't we start with Vancouver and Ottawa? Just for fun.
Yeah, no problem.
Pretty good atmosphere in the whatever they call it now, Rogers Arena, Rogers Center, someplace in Canada, Ontario.
Canadian Tire Center.
Yeah.
So Vancouver does come away with a 12-8 win, and I think we finally kind of got a glimpse in this game of just what this Warriors team could be when everything is clicking on the offense. They got out to an early lead and really kind of just controlled the whole game from the start. As you mentioned, Christian Del Bianco did get his 100th assist. He's just the fourth goaltender in history to achieve that milestone. Plenty of scoring all around the Vancouver offense. Keegan Ball, a hat trick and 2 assists. Jesse King had 2 goals and 4 assists. Adam Charlambides and Curtis Dixon each had 2 goals and 2 assists. Shane Simpson had 2 goals and 2 assists. Matt Beers even had a goal and an assist on an odd play.
That was a heck of a goal, eh? That was a bullet he threw.
Yeah, firing from half court basically. Past a diving Zach Higgins. One of the big things, 3 out of 4 on the power play, Vancouver. So taking advantage of an Ottawa team that, we talked about it last week, extremely disciplined in that win over Buffalo, not giving Buffalo even 1 power play for the game. But they gave up 4 this time, and Vancouver makes them pay on 3 of them. Del Bianco finishes with 42 saves. For Ottawa, Jeff Teat, 6 points, a hat trick, and 3 assists. Connor Kiernan had 2 goals and 2 assists. Larson Sundown with a goal and an assist. Sam Firth and Jacob Dunbar each had a goal. Rob Hellier and Riley O'Connor kind of shut down a bit. Hellier had 4 assists, O'Connor 2 assists, but neither of them were able to find the net. And tough night for Zach Higgins, 28 saves, 11 goals allowed.
We even saw Tyler Carlson for a small bit, just to try and give him a break.
Yeah, and the concern now, really a couple of things. I mean, for Vancouver, obviously getting the momentum back after a game they probably should have won against San Diego, that really would have kind of put San Diego in some dire straits, a third of the way through the season. For them to bounce back and, kind of goes to my caption here. Away teams did take the lead this week when as far as the season goes, winning games. And Vancouver, along with San Diego, is one of 2 teams that's undefeated on the road. And you have to wonder, when we get to the other game Friday night, this will apply too. But success on the road, you got to wonder if that's going to be the key this year to teams winning.
Yeah.
Especially if we're just if things keep kind of trending to where away teams are winning more often than home teams, Not to say what's the point of home field advantage, but to some extent.
Well, I'm thinking if you're not in Bandit Land or maybe Calgary for something like that, every rink is the same now. It's not like it was years ago where they had different dimensions and you could build your team towards that. Every rink is cookie cutter the same. So really, if you can tune out the noise, is there really a difference in home or away? Other than
right, and New England had that distinction too of being, they were within regulation but smaller.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
the other
Toronto Rock also with Maple Leaf Gardens, it was a totally different thing than say the Boston Garden when the Boston Blazers played.
Absolutely,
which is smaller. These were all different sizes of the spectrum. If we're going back into Mill and the Memorial Auditorium, they were all different rinks in different sizes and different things. And the boards were lower and the glass was lower and the fans were on top of you and different little things that were things. Now everything is spaced out. Everything is, on the floor. It looks exactly the same, one to the next.
Yeah. And I think to my point a little further, for Ottawa, now you're 4-4. you had that statement win against Buffalo, and you kind of, for all intents and purposes, lay an egg here. And the second half of your schedule, you've already played 5 of your home games.
Mm-hmm.
So, you've got 10 to go, and the majority of them are on the road. And you have, now you have a losing record at home again.
Right.
Yeah.
So, little bit of concern there that, that there isn't, kind of that comfort level, like, well, maybe not so much this year, since we've been talking about Halifax has had 2 losses at home, San Diego 3 losses at home, Buffalo 2 losses at home already in 4 games. It seems like there isn't that comfort level, unless you're Saskatchewan right now.
Yeah.
Here's my question
home.
also, though. What happened in the second half that changed everything? Because we had bukuns of scoring in the first from both sides. Obviously more from Vancouver. And we had next to nothing in the second. Defenses tighten up. Adjustments not made. Adjustments made.
I guess you could say adjustments made, but I mean, Ottawa had their chance. They had a lot of good looks, especially in the fourth quarter. And let's not forget, they're the best team in the fourth, at least until Friday night.
Yeah,
they were the best fourth quarter team. I mean, by far, they were the best fourth quarter team in the league. And, they pretty much get shut down.
Now I'm starting to think that Georgia is.
But they did have their looks. It's not like they, I mean, there were maybe a couple of gaffes here and there where, hey, gave a ball away, took a shot early in the clock when maybe it would have been wise to hold on. Hopefully that's not just something that spilled over from the end of the Buffalo game, because we saw those 2 possessions at the end of the Buffalo game. The one where they probably should have scored an empty netter and pulled up, and then the one where
they were lucky not to give one up.
Yeah, basically it was the other way around. It was, hey, you're going to run clock when you should have scored.
Right. Is there something in Ottawa that is concerning again with scoring? Because again, we're leaning to one side here.
Maybe, yeah. I mean,
when Teed isn't scoring 5 or 6, we're really.
I mean, you did get production out of Kieran, decent production, and I feel like he hasn't been this year to the extent in previous seasons. He hasn't been as prominent, and I understand part of that is you have Rob Hellier now on your side.
Mm-hmm. True.
But yeah, I'd say there's some concern there. I mean, it needs to be balanced, and you need to get it. You need to get the scoring from everyone, like Vancouver did in this game.
Well, yeah, and Vancouver's a prime example of everybody stepping up now. But it's after we were talking about it, and after we're pushing buttons of is this a selling team, because they're not meshing together, and all of a sudden we're getting this meshing of players.
So
I wish they would finally.
So you're saying they listen to us?
Yeah. Yes, I am. But I'm also, if they're listening, I'd like to Peyton Cormier in the lineup. Let's see what he can do. Because it's like play me coach or trade me coach. To be on a team just to say you're on a team, especially when you set records in NCAA, to me, that's a waste. So I'm sure that you can find a spot somewhere in there for him. And I'm sure he can be a positive influence.
Yeah, but I mean, maybe not, because didn't Ryan Martell just come back into the lineup on that side?
Yeah.
And of course, you already have Charlene Beatties, you already have King. So,
well, do you trade him for a first then? Since he was a first?
Who needs a lefty right now?
He doesn't.
True. True.
Yeah.
It's never not the most coveted commodity
Mm-hmm.
in the NLL.
The only thing is, I think that his stock has gone down because nobody knows what he can do box now. Because nobody's seen him play other than a couple of sporadic games. So I think Vancouver's doing himself an injustice because they're not doing him any favors by not playing him. And his stock is going downward, so they're not going to get full value for what he's really worth because there is no list of what he can do box. Now we know it's done field accomplishments don't mean diddly. Just take a look at some of the field guys who've come through.
Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what the answer is. I mean, I see a similar situation potentially in San Diego with Corey Small. Now scratched twice in a row. And, they have Chris Kavanaugh waiting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's, they already have a lefty sniper in Connor Robinson and, Dylan Watson stepping up his game. So it's, we're going to see some tough decisions. If anything, if someone's looking to trade, they might focus more on Peyton Cormier as a target versus Corey Small just because of the age.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
you can get
for sure.
It makes sense.
Good solid prime years.
The only thing that I have is, again, Corey Small is a known commodity. We know what he can do box. Peyton Cormier is still, and I love his game, but we still don't know what he can do when it comes down to push come to shove in box. We know what he can do field. We know what kind of player he is. We know what kind of shot he's got. We also know that he has been injury prone all the way through his career. That's the thing that worries me. And in tight in box is much more apt to get injured than in field. Though we've seen some pretty wild injuries in field too. But I think that they should find a way to get him in the lineup other than somebody going down with an injury, just to see what they got. Give him a chance. Now that the lineup looks to be gelling, now you can insert a piece and see what he can do with this lineup and if it works. Because down playoff time, when it's a grind and guys are going down or needing a break down the stretch, you don't want to find that you don't have anything.
Right.
And one game isn't going to cost you a season, but it will give you a good tell on what you got. All right, let's move on. Let's move on over to Philadelphia. And again, this is becoming a broken record now. Philadelphia is faking everybody else out and starting off great. And they got Domini back. And, that was a big plus. A whole different aspect to that transition game right away. And their defense looked good off the hop. Held San Diego scoreless in the first. How many times have we said that, Mike?
None until Friday night.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. So for everybody worrying about Philadelphia defense, it is still there. However, offensively, we had 2 goals in the first, and that's it. Joe Resetarits looks to me like he wants to be the facilitator now. It was nice to see him get a goal, but it looks like he wants to be the guy who's dumping it off more than the guy who's shooting it. And sometimes I think it's to the detriment of the offense. If the shot's there, take it. And I think that Philadelphia could be a lot more dangerous. And again, I bring up the same point, Shawn, of Blaze Reardon. Yes, I see him there. Yes, I see him with these assists every now and again. But does he have a role? I don't think he does. I don't think he knows what his role is. And I don't think anybody else knows what his role is. Until that gets defined, he's just an extra body out there. And that's a waste of a lot of talent. Because remember him a couple of years ago. He was the one most feared of the offense up front because he was fearless. He would jump through the crease. He had hands that were great. He could do from behind the net. He could pass. He could shoot, and he could get in the dirty areas out front and from the top of the crease score, a la a Hogarth idea, just a little shorter. Now, I don't think anybody's concerned about him. I don't think anybody's double teaming him or worried about what he's going to be doing if he's going to be going across. I don't think goalies are worried if he's going to be bulling a China shop through the crease. And to me, I think that's a waste. He's one of those guys where I think you need to define a role for him, and he will do whatever you tell him to do.
Have they
And
given
he's got
his
2 shots? He had 2 shots on net and 3 assists. I mean, to Gary's point, like, why would I fear a guy who's not going to shoot the ball?
Yeah.
Yeah. Or a team that's not going to shoot the ball. And we heard it on the broadcast from Scott Gabrielson.
Mm-hmm.
The Wings need to shoot the ball. 41 shots for the game.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of my other point was, again, Blaze Reardon, 3 assists, 2 assists for Joe Ressateris, 4 assists for Eric Fennell. Got plenty of guys who are willing to pass the ball and get assists. You got a lot of facilitators, but who the hell's scoring?
Yeah. I agree with you, Brian. I agree with you, but isn't that up to Philadelphia to get him in shape? Funny enough, isn't that what happened to Chris Kluche when you had him in Philadelphia, and then Buffalo took him and put him in shape, and he's been sailing ever since? Just should be looking at the strength and conditioning coaches, because that's in their realm, isn't it?
Yep.
He hasn't been the same since the injury, obviously. We know that. Now, do we need a hypnotist? What do we need?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
It can't be fear of the ball because he plays a solid net with no equipment in the summer for chaos. Correct?
True.
So there's obviously no fear of a ball coming at him.
Is the other problem here that they are deferring to the American field guys a little too much?
Possibly.
Sowers and O'Neill.
Yeah, could be.
That they're just relying on these guys to have big games night in and night out when, let's face it, they're both currently in their second year of pro box lacrosse.
Yeah. Sowers had a couple of goals in this game.
And
O'Neill had a couple of goals in this game, but that's not enough to win, man. Especially when nobody else is putting up numbers.
And I'm not making this comment lightly, and I'm not trying to attack U.S. Boxla, but it's not Canadian juniors. We don't know what kind of level of experience, and what kind of real reps that Sowers or O'Neill have gotten prior to the NLL with whatever time they've spent in box.
Right.
And again, that's not to knock U.S. Boxla or any of the leagues around here, in that area. The what's the one in Baltimore? Baltimore Indoor Lacrosse League.
The BILL, yeah.
That's producing some great players. Blaze Reardon has played in that league, I believe.
Jordan Hall has played in that league.
Yeah. So, we've seen guys come out of that league. We've seen guys who longtime pros like Jordan Hall who've played in that league. So, and that's not meant to be a knock, but, it's at the same time, we're talking about how it's still on the rise in the U.S.
Right. I don't know good, but you can't blame the defense. You can't blame Damoud. They gave up 9 goals. The relative idea is if you can stay into single digits, you keep somebody in digits, you'll win. If you can get into double digits, you have a good chance of winning. Well, 7 goals ain't going to do it. And even though 4 of them came in the first half, to me, if it wasn't that the Seals took a while to get going, that would have been different too. Now, the Seals look like same old in that first half, and I'm wondering what's wrong with them. And then they wake up. And Ben McIntosh, of all things, came back to haunt his former club with a good evening, shall we say.
Yeah, 5 points on the night. And obviously it helps having Trevor Baptiste. He won the face-off battle, though not by much, 12-8.
Not by much, and that was a little bit of an interesting thing too. That's the one thing I give Philadelphia credit.
Well, I'd give him a lot more credit. I mean, I think Nick Rowlett has been a bright spot. I mean, we were sitting here at preseason, worried and saying, hopefully Bo Columbus is going to be that guy because the fans can't endure another season of Nick Rowlett taking faceoffs, and he has turned around and been a bright spot.
Yeah.
Very consistent. Even if he's losing battles, he's keeping things close. He's not getting overwhelmed. He's not getting dominated.
Now, I look at this also as that Connor Robinson, for the first time this season, really made his mark. And he had 2 goals and an assist in this game. And that's something that San Diego's been lacking. Everything has been relying on West Berg, and a goal and 3 assists for him. Yes, but it didn't all fall on his shoulders. Like, it wasn't great production from everywhere, but it was more production from everywhere. And I guess the greater production will come the more you have more people doing it.
Yeah,
I wonder also, though.
Yeah, and maybe just, is this a case of he just needs time to gel with, Dylan Watson and, the other guys on his side of the floor.
Well, 7 shots on net, 2 goals, not bad.
Yeah.
Not a bad evening. I look also at Chris Riglieri. He only gave up 7 goals in the game, coming back from a groin injury. I tend to wonder, groin injuries take more than a week. I wonder,
that's 2 good games in a row now he's had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, is he 100%? Pretty close, I would say. He's doing a few things differently than he was doing. But I don't know. I want to see San Diego play somebody other than Philadelphia, though, for that answer. I want to see them playing a Buffalo. I want to see them playing Saskatchewan for that answer, honestly.
That's true. And I mean, they're going to get their chance.
Sooner rather than later, that.
Yeah, I mean, but, just quickly going back to the point before we move to Saturday's games, the caption again I have here, could that be an identity for San Diego? 3-3. You're 3-0 now on the road. The only other undefeated team on the road is Vancouver.
Mm-hmm.
And let's just hypothetically, if you finish 9-9, I mean, this is a stretch here, but let's say you go 9-0 on the road and 0-9 at home. Put you at 9-9, which we know is probably going to land you in a playoff spot.
That's probably the cutoff.
Yeah.
You're going to have a lower seed, which means all of your games are going to be on the road. Is that an identity worth having?
I look at the Rochester.
Not that they should
Nighthawks.
shoot to be 9-0.
I look at the Rochester Nighthawks of the mid 2010s, the 3-peat champion. I don't believe they were ever at the top of the standings in any of that. I know they had to come into a Toronto building that of a team that was first overall. I know they had to beat another couple of teams like a Buffalo and a few other teams that were ahead of them in the standings over these things, and still overcame, and they could win anywhere. But if you looked at them during the year, they were mediocre at best. 8-8 back in those 16-game seasons, right? And
I only use San Diego just because of the fact that they're winless at home and undefeated on the road.
Mm-hmm.
But it's almost like, hey, is this an unintentional cheat code of sorts that they stumbled upon?
Right.
It's almost just kind of their road to the playoffs, possibly just literally win on the road. Yeah.
Don't play at home.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny, because if it was hockey, you'd have everybody living in that, that market. For a team like San Diego, which has a couple of guys in market, But the majority of these guys live in Ontario. To be on the road and playing at Buffalo, playing at Toronto, playing at Rochester, this is almost a home game for them. You know, this is a drive to the arena, not a 5-hour flight, so you can have a home game. So it's a little bit different. You know, a little different psyche in being that home game. It'd be different if for Vancouver, where a lot of guys live on the Vancouver area, in the Vancouver area, in and around the BC province. But when you're taking a look at something like that, you know, that's why, you know, even, you know, a Halifax or something like that, you know, it's not that far a jaunt flight wise for someone who lives in Ontario to get there, for someone who lives in Philadelphia to get there.
Yeah, and let's not forget, I mean, their remaining away games are, you know, Las Vegas, Saskatchewan, but Colorado, but then they have Toronto, Georgia, and Oshawa.
Mm-hmm.
So they have a couple that are close by.
Now, my question to you is, which ones are the close by ones? Because the 50-50 split now. The ones at home, close by, or the ones where they're close to living.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's the thing with being on the West Coast. That, yeah, it's sunshine, and while we're all digging out of 60 centimeters, that'd be 2.5 feet to y'all, of snow, or being on the beach, right? Or playing in the outdoor practice rink. We would have one, but we couldn't find a ball. I believe we tried that with the Canadian Field Championships. Remember?
Yeah. How'd that go?
Yeah. We might actually move to an orange ball.
And sticks with you shovels now.
Yeah, message to some of the shut-ins in LinkedIn who keep sending me messages if I want to buy the balls there. or the WhatsApp people who are trying to sell me their uniforms. All I need to do now is find a team. But anyway, let's move on over to the Saturday games. We had two of them on Saturday, and both of them were good games. And both of them were games where I was very curious to see how everybody was going to go. We start off with the Toronto and Georgia, and we alluded to this earlier. But Toronto came out on a mission in this game, and they started really working with the momentum that they built in Rochester. And as the game came across, it looked more and more like that game, only on the opposite end of the spectrum. They had a lot of opportunities right off the hop, and they jumped out to a 4-1 lead in the first quarter, but this could have been a 10-1 lead. Brent Dobson was spectacular, making saves left, right, and center, reflex, and any part of his body he'd get on there, and just solid saves. Georgia got close in the second with a couple of goals, and then Owen Hiltz took over. And he had a pair of back-to-back goals on the power play that put the Rock back in control. Now, he's the one guy, now I always complain about outside shooting. He's got a great outside shot, but he's also half the time flying through the air across the crease scoring. And I don't know how many times he tried that last night. He was exhausted at the end of the game when I was talking with him. He's going to be on the show the first week of February, too, on the NL Lacrosse Talk. So that should be interesting. But anyways, you know, the second half, Georgia's transition game woke up. And with 3 goals in the third quarter, this was starting to become a close game. Although Toronto's power play kept rolling, the Rock only took a 1-goal lead heading into the fourth. And this set up an absolutely nail-biting experience. The Swarm put on more pressure in the fourth. And they tied the game early, then grabbed their first lead of the night, they thought, and that goal came back after a long review. And then they got it anyways. Now, Lyle Thompson came to life in the fourth, scoring and then facilitating. And, of course, when he started coming to life, the Rock had to pay more attention, which opened up Shane Jackson, which opened up Jacob Hickey, opened up a whole bunch of other options. Late in the game, Georgia's up by 1, and Toronto gets rewarded finally for all the opportunities that they had with a really nice goal from Challen Rogers out front of the crease that sent this game to overtime. However, overtime didn't last very long In fact, it lasted a face-off. 30 seconds in, Shane Jackson to Lyle Thompson, and this game is now over. Bright spots for this game. Troy Holochuk in net had a good game. In fact, he made a lot of those same saves that I was just saying about Brett Dobson. A lot of these toe saves and things like that, which we're not used to with Nick Rose being a position goaltender. We're watching a big, tall reflex goalie. And when he's on, making a lot of saves. Brett Dobson made 48 saves in this game. That's a lot of rubber. And he looked terrific. Shane Jackson with 4 points. Challen Rogers with 5 points. However, CJ Kirst, another big game with 3 goals. Owen Hiltz again with 3 goals. Jacob Hickey, bright spot for Georgia with a pair of goals. Brian Cole came to life with 4 assists in this game. That's big because with him doing that and his size, that's one big team Georgia's got. Defensively especially, but offensively as well. Jordan McIntosh all over the floor as well. More in transition than really being a spot on the defense. Keen Moon. We talked about him last week. And seeing him up close and personal, he's going to be a really good player. 3 assists in this game, but really being able to absorb the punishment and setting the picks to make other things happen. Tornek and Echo Stone, they had answers for. Shane Jackson had a couple of goals and on a couple of quick sticks, but really he wasn't that much of an issue either, except, of course, in overtime with a good dish over to Lyle Thompson. I really liked the game of Ben Trumbull. I really liked the game of Jacob Hickey. I thought both guys played solid games for 4 quarters. On the Toronto side, again, CJ Kirst looks like he's been doing the box game for 10 years now. He looks so comfortable in that role. Justin Martin looked very good in this thing in transition. Although he only had 1 assist, still, he's able to make a team squirm because of his speed. Sam English, though he didn't have any points, had an awful lot of opportunity. But again, when you have all this going on, he only had 3 shots in the game, though. You tend to wonder, there's only 1 ball, right? Josh Tolwick, another 1 goal and 3 assists in the game, 8 shots on net, and a couple of just beauty saves from Brett Dobson. Otherwise, that could have easily been 3 goals, 3 assists. And it's not from lack of effort. Elijah Gash putting in the work on D. Ostrauser coming out even more on important things going on in his own zone. So that relying on him. You'd have never seen that 5-10 years ago. Yeah. He had 5 loose balls in the game as well. So doing the digging. So am I worried about the Rock with a 10-9 loss? Not really. A few bounces the other way. Not a hot goalie that's white hot. And this is a win in Toronto's column. So I'm not concerned. What I am liking is that the team is gelling. I really like Hugh Kelleher. A really big bang-em, big guy. And, some of the guys that I've watched over the years, though, the Mazzucas and things like that, I think their roles have changed. Used to be exciting watching Phil come off the bench and go for that coast-to-coast transition goal. I think the role has changed, is why we're not seeing that as much. I would like to see it again, and I'd like to see Toronto's transition game be a little bit more in the forefront, whereas it's not just a Latrell Harris run when he's healthy, once he gets his shoulder back again. But we'll see. What do you think, guys?
4 for 5 on the power play. I'll add.
Yeah,
that's huge for Toronto.
Yeah, and that's Owen Hills. Owen Hills had 3 power play goals in this game.
So
they look good in the power play. They looked organized in the power play. The other thing was Josh Jubenville taking faceoffs. I thought, oh boy, it's going to be a long night. 10 of 23, not bad. Not bad. Considering at some point they're going to get TD Erlin back. And then that will change the balance of power there too.
Oh, yeah.
So you figure, you get a Latrell Harris back, you get a TD Erlin back. Not bad. Not bad. Holochuk and Steve Orleman on the bench now. You have two competent goalies until Nick Rose gets back. Talking to Nick after the game, he's well on the mend. But time frames, I don't know. I tend to think, I may be off base on this. They're talking in a couple of weeks, right? I tend to think it has to be more. Why would you trade your third pick in next year's draft for a goalie of the caliber of Steve Orleman if you're just going to release him when Nick Rose comes back in 2 more weeks? That doesn't make any sense to me. The math doesn't add up. It's not mathing.
Are they carrying another goalie on their practice roster?
Yeah, they have the Dante Mancini. They just signed out of the Oakville Buzz a few weeks back. And then which one are you going to put on the which NLL caliber goalie are you going to put on the practice roster? Who both can start.
Yeah, and you'd think if it was just a couple of weeks, you would just throw in Mancini as a backup for a couple of weeks and
he can
go.
count to 5.
Yeah,
You can open and close a gate. I just, it doesn't math for me.
Are they potentially banking on flipping Orleman to another team at the trade deadline if Rose is healthy and back?
It's possible.
Depending on where they are as far as buying.
I'm looking at Rose's age, though. And how many more years are you going to get out of him? I remember Rose has been here since 2012.
Yep.
Right, that's 14 years.
Yeah.
And before that, he was with Boston and Calgary. So, how many more years before you move to somebody younger? Are we talking about another Matt Vince? I don't know. Do we think that way, though?
Yeah, I don't know, because you're 3-3 team, and is it now time to start thinking, do I need a younger goalie?
Now, you went over and you got Brandon Miller back as your goaltending coach. He's surely not working that much with Nick Rose. So if he's working with Orleman and with Holochuk and Mancini, isn't that the future? Isn't that what they're banking on the future to be? Just put it out there.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good point.
No, it is a good point. Like I said, where they sit as of right now, you bank on the future when you could be in a playoff spot now. Like,
I wonder, do we find a way to hold on to one of these 4 goalies now? We were talking about that with Buffalo before, but now you've got 4 in the system. Down the road, they're I imagine they're hoping that Dante Mancini is the guy. But in the meanwhile, Nick Rose and I just can't see getting rid of a legitimate 3rd round pick in a deep draft for a goalie you're only going to rent for a couple of weeks and then off you go. That just doesn't make sense to me. Even in the land where we get rid of 1st round picks for, usually pretty calibered players, though. Just a thought. Anyways, we move on to the next game, and I put on my Gavin Prout Mammoth jersey because, well, the Mammoth, of course, beat Oshawa, whom I thought had everything going their way lately. And, well, they had found their scoring. They had gotten some more toughness. They gotten a lot of toughness.
Yep.
But they didn't bank on Andrew Q coming back with a 10-point night.
No, I mean that's been the big thing we kept talking about. Is wait till Andrew Q gets in this lineup, and he had. Let me get it up here. 4 goals, 6 assists. Was a big cog in that offense for the Mammoth. And right off the bat, I mean, Dawson Theed puts up a goal right off the bat for Oshawa. But after that, I mean, that was all you really got out of him in his first night with the Firewolves. Actually, the Firewolves held a 3-1 lead, early in this game. They got off to a really, really quick start. But then again, you got 2 from Andrew Q, Will Malcolm and Thomas Vela, and, the snowball effect, right? Q gets another power play goal in the second quarter. They're up by 3. They do fight back. Ty Kurtz, Alex Simmons, and Mason to tie the game. Ron, had a hell of a game as well. Few really nice, dives behind the from behind the net there. He's starting to kind of become a bit of a weapon that if he has that ball behind there, you've got to be careful if he jumps out on you. And he had the hat trick as well for the Mammoth. And I mean, their offense just, we're talking about, Oshawa's offense coming live. Mammoth just exploded. Again, Jack Hanna, doing what they expected of him coming in.
Paid the money for it.
Yeah. And again, what we keep talking about, Dylan Ward, just looking like the Dylan Ward we remember. Faced 60 shots and stopped 49. He saw a lot of rubber and still backstopped the Mammoth
That's
to
the
win.
thing too, eh? That's the thing. Is Oshawa's getting their shots. And they had the same thing that Toronto ran into. They ran into a hot goalie. Now, Mike, you brought this up earlier and off air, is with scoring down from last year to this year. It's not the shooters, though. Is the goaltending that much better now? I'm starting to bank on that one.
I'm thinking so.
I'd say so. I mean, look at Oshawa. They're 2-6, but I mean, how many of these games that they've played have we talked about? How spectacularly Doug Jamieson has played in.
Mm-hmm.
Despite the losses. So, we're getting great goaltending efforts out of him. We're getting, we've already gotten record tying performance out of Warren Hill. We're getting, Brett Dobson through, 7 games now? His goals against average is under 7. I mean, that's insane to think about.
Yeah.
All right, let's use this for a thing. We talked about it before, and we said 10. If you can get over 10 goals, you can win. So goalies with under 10 or around 10. Frank Scagliano, 9.72. Dylan Ward, 8.89. Christian Del Bianco, 8.76. Brett Dobson, 6.89. Warren Hill, 9.50. Matt Vince, 10.17. Doug Jamieson, 10.1. I'd say Nathan Whittam, but there's not enough time in there. Just one quarter, right, at an 8.
Yeah.
But
I'd say everyone else you mentions is a starter. So
even Nick Rose, right, 9.97. That's a lot of goalies with an under 10 goals against average, which is a good reason why the scoring is way down if these goalies are that strong. And we can't even talk about the bandit rule, the goaltending of the defenseman, because that's not happening now. And if it is, it's being called. In fact, I got it from a source yesterday that the league was a little unhappy at a few things from before, and decided, in a call, to make sure that this is a front and center thing that the NLL officials are looking at and calling. So you're not going to see it without a penalty going forward. I guarantee it. And there was one in last night's Georgia-Toronto game as well. So, again, coming back to our point though, even Troy Holochuk's got a 10.5 goals against. So there's a lot of goalies with an 10 or under goals against, which is a good reason to say that the scoring is down. But we look at the talent of all the scorers in there. Where is it? Are we going to get used to getting 10-6 games? I see it in summer ball. I don't usually see it in NLL.
Even the younger goalies, I'm just going to say, like the Hartleys, Christian Del Bianco was kind of in a league of his own. Even Aiden Walsh, we're seeing him starting to come into his own as well.
Well, Hartley's 10.13. He should have been on the list. Sorry, I missed him.
Yeah, I think Del Bianco, 8.76.
Yeah. You look at it and, most teams have their starting goalie with goals under or at 10. That's astounding. I don't remember a year where we had that.
Yeah.
We were used to seeing things at 14, 13. We're not even talking about 10, really. We're talking under 10.
I mean, 13 was that threshold the last couple of years.
Yeah.
We've been measuring that streak that Vegas had for however many games it was, 30 some odd games where they hadn't reached 13 goals, and their record reflected.
Ironically, Landon Kells has got 12 goals against, 12.11. So, even that's moving its way down.
Yeah, take out that shootout against Saskatchewan, and he's probably
in
there. So,
Aiden Walsh, you take out that blowout to Georgia, and he's sitting at 12 right now, 12.74, and he's probably down in there too.
Yeah.
And then the other ones who are above are guys who are backups. Nick Demood, of course, has had a rough time in Philadelphia. It's not from really him. He's facing an awful lot of rubber. The same problem that Zach Higgins had when he was there. But even then, he's still sitting under 12.
I'd be interested to see the block shot statistics for this year, especially since they made it a stat, a recordable stat.
Rule, yeah.
And with the bandit rule, yeah.
Compare numbers for this year to numbers for, say, the past couple of years.
That would be very interesting. But just for our point here, it's the proof's in the pudding. It's right there. Right?
Yeah, I mean the goalie play's been pretty stellar.
Yeah. And it's funny because you do bring up the bandit rule. You would think the exact opposite. Block shots would be down and scoring would be up. Seems like the opposite's happening. We don't know totally about block shots, obviously, but.
Well, I'll give you our top 5. Is Robert Hope with 16, Paul Dawson with 13. Even with the bandit rule, he's still blocking 13 shots. Kyle Rubish with 10. Reed Bowering with 9.
13, but what did Dawson have? What did he have last year? Didn't he have close to 60 block shots last year?
Oh, yeah. The last couple of years, he's been an absolute machine.
So now he's
not really clear since he came in the league as a goaltender, right?
Yeah.
Well, my point with that is now he's at 20% of last year's total, and he's already a third of the way through the season.
So it's going to be down then.
So his
going to be down.
Is well down.
Yeah, because he's 6 games in now, right? Robert Hope 7 games in. And I say the top number is 16.
So I mean, it almost feels like maybe it's a mix of, because we've talked about it enough with other teams, passing, and everyone wants to be a facilitator, and On some teams, no one seemingly wants to score. Maybe there's a little bit too much pitch and catch going on.
I've said that forever. Drives me insane when there's one too many passes that winds up being a breakaway the other way on an opportunity that you should have had at least a good scoring opportunity. The other number that jumps out to me is, do you guys know who the loose ball leader is right now in the league? Offhand.
I do not.
Not going on there because I have it up on my screen here. So.
Yeah, Callum Jones of Ottawa. That's one that I would not have on my bingo card if I didn't have it in front of me here. And not by a little bit. We're talking by 13 shots over Robert Hope. Now he's got a game extra played, but still, that's a hell of a lot of extra shots if he's going to have it in one game.
Yeah.
And then we dip right down.
Maybe we can explain that a bit. The decrease in scoring, if teams are taking the time to make those extra passes, they're also eating up more clock.
True.
So now you're looking at potentially less possessions total or possession changes. And if you're not getting those results, where you're getting the ball in the back of the net,
mm-hmm.
Potentially less shots then.
Yep. So
you're waiting for more of the quality chance than the quantity.
Less shots is also going to result in less block shots. And it's going to result potentially in higher save totals.
Right. Interesting. Anyways, let's something for us to keep an eye on and keep moving on. So have a quick look at next week. We had a busier week next week. We got 7 games next week. Saskatchewan is in Calgary. Philadelphia is finishing off the home and home with San Diego in San Diego Friday night. Saturday, Georgia is into Halifax. I'm curious about that one with the few moves that Halifax made and the way Georgia has been playing recently. That should be an interesting game, especially with the big size defense. I think that this isn't going to be an explosive game. Vancouver and Rochester. If you didn't have this one circled, circle it, because this is one that you're going to want to watch. Definitely one you're going to want to watch. 2 of the top offenses, 2 of the top goaltenders. Interesting. Ottawa is into Toronto. I will be there. And it is Indigenous Night in Toronto, Hamilton, for that game. Buffalo and Colorado. This one, again, is interesting. The way Colorado's playing and the way Buffalo has been playing so far this year, I tend to lean to Colorado now. And it's in the Loud House.
Yeah.
It's not in Banditland. So the one advantage that I would give them, and the one guy that I think can stone the Burn and Smith extravaganza would be Dylan Ward. So another interesting one. Oshawa and Vegas. Now I'm starting to wonder which Oshawa team shows up. But if they're going to get as many shots as they got in this past week, they're facing Landon Kells. They're not facing, Dylan Ward. They're not facing Matt Vince. So do we get another repeat of what we just saw a couple of weeks ago in Oshawa, where they just went to town on Halifax, right?
Right.
Because they have it in them. And they can be quite tough as well.
And we know that Vegas defense is inconsistent too. So,
right.
So this could end up being a shootout.
Mm-hmm. Now with Clark and Theed, that they're going to take a battering. Vegas is to try and get inside. So it's going to be interesting. I do like the way I do like the moves that Oshawa made. even though it didn't pan out this past week. But again, we're taking now into account a hot goalie. You're going to fire 60 shots, and you get a hot goalie. It is what it is, right?
Right.
That's what I like to say. If I'm not going to put any credence into the Toronto loss because Dobson's hot, I can't put much credence into the Oshawa loss to Colorado because Ward's hot. However, in the playoffs, isn't everybody hot? So now we have to get into the word of character again, and finding ways and doing things and all the other things that come across, not just scoring, not just the things that we go on ESPN for the highlights of. That's when the guys who don't get on the stat sheet all the time, but are 15 years in the league because of, come to the forefront. The guys who do all the little things, the guys who set all the picks, the guys who do all the digging, the guys who do the stuff away from the play. That's, if you have enough guys on the team they're as important in my eyes as a guy who's going to score 60 goals for you. Because you're going to get 60 goals if you're not doing all that other work. Do we spend too much time, Mike, talking about guys who have lots of goals? I'd rather have 5 guys have 25 goals than one guy have 55.
I mean, that's probably the way to go.
Yeah.
Right now, I mean, we were just talking about how Vancouver finally showed a glimpse of what they could be when they're running full steam ahead.
Right. Because you take a look, when you have, if you have only 2 or 3 guys scoring and one guy has an off night, more times than not, you're talking about a losing evening.
Yep.
We saw that in Ottawa last few years when you shut down Teat, right? We knew everything ran through Teat, and once you shut him down, we knew that was it for Ottawa.
Right. Right. We've had that with San Diego for a few games. If Westberg isn't scoring, the team isn't winning. This is the first week where I've seen it, or it's been a few more people to it, but I'm still not convinced yet. Saskatchewan really is the only one that jumps out to me with such a balanced attack that anybody can score. They're that deep. And that's happened over the last couple of years. So it's not a one-off. A 21-goal explosion last week or whatever, the week before, it's no fluke. That's not oh my God, they had a great game. That, I think, is if you're not paying attention, that can happen quite often. And if their defense holds up, then Scagliano could win the goaltender of the year award too.
Oh, with that defense holding up, that speed of that defense, they
That's
can score too.
That's the other part of it. Transition, as I've said many, many times, I love a strong transition game because it makes the other team unsettled. Then they take a lot of, too many men penalties. Then your power play gets to work. But more than anything, then you get to keep their defense on the floor and rattle them around. And then come fourth quarter, why do you think their goals are up? Well, because they're dead exhausted because they killed 10 penalties during the game. Everything fits in piece by piece. And if you can dissect it and be that, that cerebral as to, piece that together, see you in the finals. And if you have all the pieces, like I say, the most complete team the league has right now, and the proof is in the stats, is Saskatchewan. And it's not like they weren't in the finals already. So they're able to duplicate or replicate their performances. So I'm curious as it goes along. And I think they have enough, obviously they have enough depth because you were not even seeing Levi Anderson. We're not even seeing a few other players come into the lineup yet, who I'm hoping that they can find room for because you don't want them sitting rusty in the press box. You're sitting 6-1. You find a game that, this would be a good one to put Anderson in. This would be a good game to put so-and-so in. That would be smart, I think.
Yeah, well, you're seeing Anderson and Clark Walter kind of rotating through. I mean, any other team, they'd probably be full-time.
Easily. easily.
Right. Both of them.
Yeah.
But it's a little eerily the same as 2016, isn't it?
Yeah.
Where you have this depth and this camaraderie. You know, back then it was a Dan Taylor or a Tor Reinhold or something like that. Now you have this, right? So, back then it was Aaron Bold. Now you got Scigliano. Who wants to get that monkey off his back of always the bridesmaid, never the bride. Be it WLA, be it Man Cup, be it NLL, is always there. So he's good enough to do it. It's just to get over that hump and actually hoist that trophy.
And you talk about character. You don't think those guys on the floor in front of him want to do it for him?
Absolutely.
Oh,
Absolutely.
Yeah. 100%.
But remember, character wins cups. That's why you never see a President's Cup winner in NHL winning a cup, or very, very seldom. You can have all the scores you want and whatever. If they don't mesh and they don't grind, you're not winning in the playoffs. Same thing with lacrosse. There's a reason why Buffalo has won 3 in a row. There's a reason why Rochester had won 3 in a row. There's a reason why Saskatchewan had won 3 out of 4. It was character. A whole lot of talent in there too, but character is the ingredient that misses from talent without it. And gee, why didn't we win? That's why. And I can show you a lot of teams, even teams in this city, that were missing that character to win, and why they won so much back in the early 2000s. Character. Role players who were just as important as the guys doing the scoring. So, just putting that out there. Just a thought. What do you think, guys?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, like the 2016 into 2018 rush. And I remember, for how many great players are on that offense, I don't remember how many times I've heard those guys say, there's just one ball out there. I don't care if I'm the one scoring. If it's not my turn to score, I know it's the other guy. And unselfish, right? They knew, like, if I'm not scoring, I can get someone else to score. And if you remember those teams, there was a ton of talent. Any one of those guys could have scored.
Absolutely.
But just knowing how it all worked and the chemistry, and again, character, right?
But even the defenses, you look at those teams in defense, and led by Corbeil, Rubish, you had Mitski, Dilks, all these guys, leader after leader after leader, but they knew how to be teammates as well, not just leaders. Because what happens when you have 5 leaders on the floor? Nobody's listening. Everybody's trying to lead.
Yeah.
So their ears are working as well as their leadership abilities, and they're working part and parcel. I look at, in the summertime, we talk about the Six Nations Chiefs, and they have all this talent, but it takes a guy like JT to ring it all in. Otherwise, you have a bunch of offensive juggernauts who are trying to score for themselves. Where somebody has to keep reminding it's under the big banner. Someone like Keenan, who can do that, but not brash in your face, but just remembering what the big picture is. Remember what the end goal is.
Yeah.
You had that with JT for the last 3 years in Buffalo. You had that with over in Rochester as well. Right. And away you went. And that's what wins multiple championships. Les Bartley. Legendary for that. Darris. Legendary for that kind of stuff. But anyways, just a reminder to everybody, we are on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, we are on Thread, we are on YouTube, as well as on www.streampunkentertainment.com. Please visit us, especially on our flagship on Facebook, 3, 4, 5 times a day, as the news is always changing. We're up to date with everything for you as quickly as we possibly can and as accurately as should be. And it's our privilege to give you all the information as quickly and as accurately as we can. That brings us to last words for the week. Mike, let's start with you this week.
I mean, I'm looking forward to these Week 10 games for sure. I think you hit the nail on the head with Vancouver and Rochester. That's going to be a huge game.
Yeah.
Colorado and Buffalo. Uh, I, I mean, to come back here next Sunday and talk about the Bandits being on a 3-game losing streak.
That'd be
When's the last time
wild.
we did that?
Yeah,
That would be wild.
That I don't think that was on any of our bingo cards.
No, that'd be like
So,
2015.
no.
That's a long time ago. Then it'd be interesting to watch Banditland and what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Yep. Shawn, last words to you.
Yeah, and just going back to that too. I mean, the beginning of the year, would we have even thought, Colorado even competing with Buffalo? Now all of a sudden we're looking at this like, almost leaning towards Colorado in this one. Other game, not to take away from the Vancouver Rochester, that's going to be a massive game. I'm curious to see that Georgia Halifax game.
Yep.
I think that's two teams that we've really seen inconsistencies out of. Some games have looked great, some games they haven't, and the goaltending duel too between Hill and Dobson should be unbelievable. I think that's going to be a really interesting game.
Yeah. I'm actually looking forward to being at the Rock game against Ottawa because I really want to see if the Rock, they seem to have just shook this one off and to keep building and keep moving. And each team presents a different challenge for this group, especially, you look at one point, there was 5 first-round picks on the floor. I can't remember the last time I said that in Toronto. So, they're getting on the same page and the movement is happening. And we have guys going inside, we have outside shooting, all kinds of things that are happening that hasn't happened in a while. Nobody is relying on anybody and everybody is working with everybody. So eventually the consistent W's will come. Don't forget, there's another first-round pick next year, and Ty English, who was their first-round pick this year, number 2 or number 3, he's in the lineup next year. So you have more first-round picks coming on top of that. So this team is going to be around for a long time as a top-tier team, especially if they get all the legwork now as they get comfortable. And they certainly look like they're working very well together. And what I'm noticing is away from the floor is they are enjoying each other as well. You don't have cliques. You have a lot of grouping and things. This is what championship teams used to do. Everybody went together on this. Everybody did that. Guys took each other under their wings. Again, I bring up the story last week in Rochester when CJ Kurse was coming off the floor and he was taking time, of course, signing everything for everybody and taking pictures with the kids and things like that in Rochester. And who's waiting? Latrell Harris in his street clothes and his sling, waiting for CJ to come off because they weren't going to do any of the celebration in the dressing room until he was there. Everybody was in. That's the team. That's what a team does. So I'm curious to see each step of the build. But yeah, again, the games that, of course, we talked about, the ones that are circled, the Rochester one, of course, the Halifax one, of course. And I got to say about the parity of the schedules, they're crescendoing at the right time. And teams that need to be facing each other for, maximum value for the fans are happening. I don't know. We talked about it in PLL, how it was weird how everything kind of aligned at the same time. NLL is happening too with a much bigger schedule of teams. So the parity, it's unfortunate there has to be a loser and a winner. But, hey, welcome to sports. Anyways, that'll wrap us up again for this week. We thank you, as always, for being with us and being, so loyal. And all your comments and all your things and seeing people in person. It is such a wonderful thing, and I love it. Can't get enough of it. There'll be some news out of OSL in the next little bit too. One thing I missed at the beginning is the announcement, of course, that there is a 7th OSL team. The Trenton Kodiaks are now part of that league, and there will be some things happening. There's some maneuvering going on as well in the board. So being on it, I'm kind of privy to it. But stick with us, and we will have all that information for you as well. But until we meet again next week, remember, keep your sticks high, keep your spirits higher, keep your shovels high too, okay? It's a lot of snow, man. Take breaks. There's a lot of snow. If you don't have a snow thrower, get one. I don't even know, man. Sometimes snow's too high for the blower. But anyways, until we meet again next week, hopefully we're all in one piece, and we're talking about the storms that were. Take care, and we will see you again next Sunday night, 8 p.m. Have a great time.